Hello Seahawks. Today you're going to be taking notes on multiplying and dividing integers, and this may be the easiest lesson that you're going to learn. If you look, this is your notes page, and the only thing that you need to remember are the rules that I gave you up top. So when you're multiplying and dividing integers, all you have to do is count how many negative numbers you have. If you have an even number of negatives, your answer is positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is negative. So even is positive, odd is negative. That's all you have to remember. Count your negative numbers, that's all. Not all the numbers, just the negative numbers. So let's take a look at the problems on the page. I have negative 12 times 4. Well, 12 times 4 is easy. 12 times 4 you already know is 48. Okay, but if you look, I have one negative number. 12 is your only negative number. So you have one negative, and I'm going to write this out for this one, the next few, and then we're going to just say it every time. One negative. The number 1 is odd, so my answer is going to be negative. And then you just need to do the math. 12 times 4 is 48. Number 2, you have a negative 8 times a negative 7. You have two negatives. Okay, the number 2 is an odd number. So your answer is going, I'm sorry, the number 2 is not an odd number. The number 2 is an even number. So your answer is going to be positive, and then 8 times 7 is 56. Number 3, you have a negative and a negative, so that's two negatives. 2 is even, so my answer is going to be positive. So it's a positive, and then 15 divided by 3 is 5. I don't need those positive signs there, I just have them there for now, but obviously you could just write your answer as negative 48, 56, and 5. Pretty simple. Try the next 3 on your own with remembering those rules. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is negative. If you have an even number of negatives, your answer is positive. Number 4, I have negative 22 and a negative 2. We have two negatives. 2 is even, so my answer is going to be positive. 22 divided by 2 is a positive 11. Number 5, negative 2 times negative 6 times negative 5. I have three negative numbers. 3 is an odd number. My answer is going to be negative, and then you have to just do the math. For this, I would use my associative property of multiplication, and I would multiply 2 times 5. I guess either way you do it is pretty simple, but 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 6 is 60. I like to multiply by tens and hundreds if I can. Number 6, I have a negative 9, a positive 2, and a negative 4. So I have two negative numbers. 2 is an even number. So my answer is going to be positive, and I would do 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 times 9 is 72. Again, using my associative property of multiplication. I can multiply that any way I want. Whichever way is easiest is the way you should do it. Okay, you can continue on if you'd like to do the rest of the page and then check your work. That's a great idea. Number 7, I have we have positive 2 times negative 4 times a positive 3. So I have one negative number. 1 is odd, so my answer is going to be negative. And then 2 times 4 is 8 times 3 is 24. Number 8, I have a negative 7 times a positive 2 times a negative 5. I have two negative numbers. 2 is even. And again, I'm going to use my associative property here. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 7 is 70. Even would be positive, sorry. Number 9, I have negative 8 times negative 2 times negative 1 times negative 5 times negative 10. So I have 5 negatives. 5 is odd, so my answer is going to be negative. And then I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to do 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 10 is 100. And 100 times 8 is a negative 800. Again, using my associative property of multiplication. Number 10, I have a negative 2 times a negative 4 times 6 times a negative 3 times a negative 7. So I have 4 negatives. 4 is even, so my answer is going to be positive. And this one, I would do 6 times 4 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. 48 times 3 is 144. Times 1 is 144. And 144 times 7, we'll just do that on the side here. I don't know that one off the top of my head. I guess I could have. 28, that's 30, that's 7, that's 10. 1008 would be your answer, and that's a positive 1008. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you write them down. 2 more to go. Number 11, I have a negative 2 times a negative 4 times a negative 5 times a negative 6 times a negative 5. That's 5 negatives. 5 is odd. So my answer is going to be odd is negative. And then I'm going to do, let's do 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 4 is 100. 6 times 2 is 12. So that would be 1200. Okay, and I mean, I can move around my numbers and manipulate them quickly and easily. So the multiplication, maybe you may think a little bit more. The thing is, you just need to count the negatives and know how many negatives you have, if it's positive or negative. Then work out the math is the best way that works for you. Number 12, we have a negative 2 times 6 times 2 times a negative 6 times a negative 5. So that's 3 negative. 3 is odd. So my answer is going to be negative. And I'll do, let's see, 2 times 5 is 10. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 2 is 72. 720. Negative 720. Okay, and that's your notes for today. Nice and easy. Just memorize that, counting up only your negative numbers. If it's even number of negative numbers, your answer is positive. If it's an odd number of negative numbers, your answer is negative. Have a good night, and I will see you in class.